Everyone, I would like to welcome Stacie Bloomfield to chat with me today. Hello, Stacie. I am so honored and grateful that you took some time out of your extremely busy schedule to meet with me for a few minutes and chat. I know you're gearing up for Leverage Your Art 2023. So I wanted to really quickly cover, well, first thing I want to announce to everybody is I got so much value out of Leverage Your Art when I took it last time that I signed up to take it again this year in 2023 because there's all new content. And the thing that I think is going to be really valuable for me and for everybody else is our climate is constantly changing. There is, whether it's inflation or the economy or just the creative climate in general. And I'm really excited to learn how I can navigate and, adjust my business to kind of continue to survive and thrive in this climate. So that's why I'm taking it this year. Also because I love you and I love your classes and they're awesome. And I've learned so much.
I'm so excited.
Yay. So here's what I will tell everyone and Stacie. So before I took the artist side hustle and Leverage Your Art, I was selling on print on demand. I was a graphic designer in film for 16 years, but I had kind of left that industry to try to go out on my own. I had some print on demand sales here and there. I had some freelance clients, which were kind of few and far between, and I had not landed any art licensing deals. In fact, before I took Leverage, I really didn't even understand. I thought I did what art licensing really even was. And I was like, why would I want to do that? I don't know. After I took Leverage Your Art, since I've taken Leverage Your Art, my print on demand sales have actually doubled because I have learned what sells. So I've gotten some really amazing insight. And I'll end with the other one, but I've not only become an educator, but I am now a Skillshare top teacher. Yay!
Yeah.
I've built a community of amazing artists. Hi, graphics gang, who all learn and grow together. I have licensed my art. Yay! So exciting. And I now run a successful art business with multiple income streams. In a nutshell, everyone, learning from Stacie was literally what propelled me into the life I've always dreamed of, which was making art for myself and making enough money on it to support myself. So I'm taking it again this year because of the new content. So anyway, that is like my really long elevator pitch, but it's all just, I feel so strongly about Leverage. It's the best value I've ever gotten for any kind of, learning that I've done for art, even art school, which was great. I have a graphic design degree. I would not trade that for anything. They don't teach you how to make money. They don't teach you marketing. They don't teach you how to run a business. They just tell you how to make art.
It's so true. Carrie, can I just say, wow, whenever I hear actual stories from former students like yourself, honestly, it makes me just want to cry in the best way possible, because I think what's hard for anyone to understand when we only know each other online, when you see someone on social media and you kind of see a smattering of them here and there, is that we are people. And in our community, I really think more than in a lot of other online communities, we care about each other and each other's success. And that's the dream, is for people to class or the free class, if that's all anyone takes, and to feel like they have direction and some confidence again, and not feel like the world is just there's no place for them. Because honestly, it is pretty crappy out there sometimes. The world is depressing if you let it get to you. And whenever we're creatives, we have to have something to hold on to. And so hearing it, not only it gave you some direction, but you are kicking some major booty. That really, thank you for telling me. It means a lot.
Well, thank you for teaching me, because really, I thought I knew art. I did not take Leverage, without I've had over almost 20 years of experience, actually over 20 years as a graphic designer. I've done freelance. I've worked at design firms. I own my own business, as a graphic designer, like a freelancer. I worked in film. I thought I knew everything there was to know. And I didn't realize how much I didn't know and how much value I got once I started realizing what art licensing was and how it works. And also the multiple income streams was really like a light bulb moment for me,
Oh,
because I've always been working for someone else, for the most part. And I've never had to like, juggle a bunch of things. But the best part about that is when like holiday season is super busy, right?
mhm.
But then in January and February, everything slows down. So you have to kind of, have another backup for that. And you have to be
Yeah.
able to gear that up to supplement your income. And now I know how to do that, which is super helpful.
And guys, like if you're, well, I guess I should tell them a little bit more about who I am, and then we could, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about multiple income streams. But just a teaser, um, there's not many artists out there, even the ones who have a lot of followers in social media, who aren't making money in multiple ways. And that's not something to be ashamed of or scared of. That is literally how it works. And do I wish it wasn't that way? Yeah, absolutely. But we see actors going through the same thing where they're trying to make more money off of there. It's different scenario, but they need multiple ways to create income. So many people have side hustles, and instead of feeling like embarrassed about that, I think that we should just embrace it. Like, this is the way our economy is right now. So how do we make it work the best for us so that we can enjoy it and kind of fit all the puzzle pieces together?
Yeah.
Because it happens. And I've been doing it for, gosh, 14 years. And so I love to talk about it and help people find their own path. P.S. Your path is going to look totally different than mine. It's going to look different than Carrie's here. And that's kind of the whole point, is because we're not cookie cutters of each other. Do you want me just to tell everyone a little bit about me, myself?
Yes, please. I would love that.
Great. So I'm Stacie Bloomfield. She introduced me already. Sorry. I live in Arkansas, which is a delightful little area no one ever visits, which is fine. I live in a really great spot of Arkansas. If you're coming to visit, mine is like the cutest. I have a studio here. I have been in Arkansas and in the Midwest almost my entire life. But I drew. I always loved to draw, like so many people. Dogs and cats were my jam as a kid. I knew I wanted to be an artist. No one taught me how, though. But I'm one of those people that whenever I say I want something, I have this weird way of figuring out how to make it happen. And it's not predictable. And it's never a straight line. But I've been the girl with a 5-year plan and writing down my dreams my whole life. And so I found myself growing up, going to college, getting a degree in graphic design and fine arts, much like you, and then not having any clue how to make money with it. Not only did I not know how to make money with it, I had just gotten married and my first baby was on the way. I kind of accelerated my life. And you're faced with a choice of, what am I going to do? Can I bet on myself as an artist, as this young mother trying to get things going, or should I go take a safer job? So I worked as a coffee shop manager for a long time. It was I won't go into that too much. It gave me insurance and I was thankful for that. But it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. And I do a lot of hard things now in my company. Working at that job away from my kid. My husband was a graduate student and I just smelled like not good coffee all day. And I was working 60, 70-hour weeks. It was so demoralizing. And I knew somehow I had to find a way to put art back into my life, but I never dreamt it would turn into what it has 14 years later. And I'll skip forward, give you the highlights. I started as an Etsy seller, illustrating. The truth is, I didn't have a voice yet as an artist. I was figuring it out. And part of my whole belief system is that if people wait to have it all figured out before they jump in, you're going to never jump. So I'm not saying that you're going to jump in, it's going to be perfect whenever you start anything, but I am going to tell you that people don't grow if they're not trying to get out there. So I started an Etsy shop. I signed up for local craft shows. I was hand making everything. Bought a printer. People have stories like this, right? But I spent $600 on a nice printer, which back in 2009 was a lot of money. And my husband was a grad student and we had no savings, and we cashed in savings bonds to do this, like literally childhood savings bonds. I used that printer until it died 10 years later. And I started just thinking, how can I leverage what I do know, which is how to make art on Adobe Illustrator. I know how to draw. I know how to use Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and InDesign. How can I use my skills to make any money? And it started out as like no money. And then it turned into my first year, barely $100. And that was, we've all been there. We think this is our year. And it is
Yeah.
not quite. At one point, I don't even talk about this, but I worked as a designer for a children's online magazine because I knew how to lay out InDesign. I was not great at it, but I was like, I know how to use this program and I'm going to make some money while I get other things going. I was scrappy and I figured things out as I went. Eventually, I found kind of a niche for myself. First, it was nursery decor, and then it became this different type of illustrative style where I'm empowering women to feel encouraged in their lives. And that's a very broad way to put it. But you can check me out. Gingerbread.com is where I sell all of my products now. So here's the thing, I'm an online educator, but I do everything I teach. I sell my products on Gingerbread, have been for 14 years. We are a 7-figure product art based company. We are in 1,400 brick and mortar stores, meaning we take our products and sell them to other stores through wholesale. And that's how, when you walk into a local shop, you might see someone, an artist, you like their products there, they're wholesaling it. And I teach about that and leverage your art. Um, I found myself growing at this rate and having opportunities to be like, well, I think I can take this art and do more with it. So that's where leverage comes from, the idea of leveraging your art into different ways. So I sell direct to customer products that I hand make and then manufacture. I wholesale those products, but you might be like, whoa, that's too far ahead for me. I'm not ready for that. Don't worry, because the truth is we all start at the same place, creating art, finding a voice, and building a portfolio of art that sells, marketable art. And that's really where leverage your art starts and meets everybody. Is this idea that for you to go any direction you want, whether you have to solidify your voice and find a way to talk about it and present yourself in the world. And I think that's one of the scariest things, Carrie, for so many artists, is like, you might be talented, but learning to talk about yourself with any ounce of confidence, let alone how to do it professionally and still stand out, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so hard. So
Yeah.
I start there, and I license art, which is kind of where most people met me from, is art licensing. I've been really fortunate to license with dozens and dozens of big brand names: Crate and Barrel, West Elm, Quarto Books, Sellers Publishing, Chronicle Books. Um, People pay me to put my art on their products. That's one income stream also. So what I've learned is that if we learn to focus on creating marketable art, then we have all these different directions to go rather than everything feeling like totally disconnected. It's a puzzle. And that's where I'm at. So I have a team of 20 people who work for me now. I've grown a lot. I used to be working at my dining room table, drawing and printing and packaging and running packages to the post office and handling everything. And now I have a team, and I know some, but I'm still doing all the things I teach. And I'm so happy and thankful to do it. And I have 3 kids. So I'm not just doing this in isolation. I have 3 kids and I have a husband, 2 special dogs. And I'm just so thankful for this life. And I want other people to find that version for themselves. That's what I want.
That is awesome. And yeah, I love your story. I remember hearing your story in Leverage when I took it before, and you're so relatable. Like, you know, your story is relatable. You've said 2 things that I've never forgotten. Number 1, slow growth is good growth. And you know how many times I've had to tell myself that, and when I look in the mirror, because I'm like, well, I'm not getting anywhere yet, you know, especially in the beginning. And also, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle.
Yeah, it is. I'll just touch on 2 things there, if you don't mind me interjecting. I'm so glad that's resonated
Absolutely.
with you, because it's been probably the only way I've been able to keep going, is to tell myself those 2 things my whole career. Because I'll start with the second one, comparing yourself to someone. When I first got on Etsy, it was way smaller, but you know, I had these people I looked up to and they had Etsy shops, and I would look at their work probably too much and just see them going places and having what looked like cool Instagram lives. And I was like, what? How do I get there? Someone show me, but no one could show me how. And I struggle with jealousy, just like anybody. Some of those people are now close friends, so it's kind of embarrassing to admit that like I struggled with those feelings, but it's true, because where I was at in my life, I was doing the best I possibly could. When I only had 5 hours a week, and that is not an exaggeration, and that's why I teach in my free mini course about how to use 5 hours a week to begin to grow a business. There was no way with 5 hours a week I was going to be able to get as far as someone who had 40 hours a week to devote to their craft. Plus, there's the factor of time. I might have had a degree in graphic design, but just like you mentioned, knowing how to make the art that is marketable and will sell, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Learning how to do that, that also takes time. And so getting comfortable with my own, like this was my self-soothing, guys. I was like, slow growth is good growth. Slow growth is good growth.
I do the same thing.
It's so true because I got to tell you, now when I look back and some of the harder memories are kind of erased a little bit, you look back, you're like, wow, you were doing a good job given everything that you had on your plate. You had kids, a husband in grad school, you were working, other things that just people will never know about because we all have stuff in our lives. And I was doing a pretty good job in hindsight, and I bet you guys are too. But the comparison trap, it creeps up at every level. If you think, oh, if once I make this much money, I won't feel this way. That is not true. It is a human condition and struggle. But back to the slow growth. Here's why I know it matters, because the universe has decided to kindly hand me a lesson, which it does sometimes. For the first 11 years of my company, it was slow, steady growth, measurable. You could see it. It was happening. Financially, it was there. Personally, my team grew, product reach grew, Instagram grew. It was slow and steady, and I could handle that. Well, we're talking right now because I do online education, and I never want to like ever talk like I'm unhappy to get to do this. I love online education, but there's a reason. I started online education in 2020. Wow, I can't talk. 2020, whenever COVID was happening. And I was still having a lot of success with art licensing, but my wholesale was struggling a little bit. And people were messaging me being like, how are you licensing your work? So I created this course called Leverage Your Art. But my special thing is I'm not just teaching licensing and portfolios. I'm teaching you then how to make it go further. And sure enough, did you know people wanted to learn that? Because so many people were like, yeah, no one's talking about how to do these things. They tell us how to make the art, how to use a program, but there's a lot of other pieces that you're not getting in college sometimes. And I love my art class. I'm not trying to disparage that. And I love all my fellow online educators, but like I had this unique on the ground experience by actually being an artist who did these things. So I started online education and it grew really fast. And all of a sudden I was like, oh no, this isn't slow growth. This is like fast growth. And I was right. Slow growth makes you feel like you have both hands on the steering wheel. And when you grow fast, and every artist I know who's had like a surge, if you subscribe to Emily McDowell's newsletter, it's like a paid newsletter. She was talking recently about this. When she hit it big, hit it big. Emily McDowell is an illustrator known for her really empathetic, but to the point greeting cards. And she went from like someone who I was messaging with in a Facebook group about like, where do you get your envelopes, to she's on TV and just doing all these amazing things. And she wrote recently in her newsletter, which you should subscribe to on Substack, about like she would have, it's way harder than you think. People think I want the overnight success. People think I want the course that by the end of the course, I'm going to make 6 figures and I'm never going to have a problem in the world. But the truth is, we weren't trained to be business people. We're artists learning how to be business people. So like, what is the point, Carrie? And then I'll be quiet. It's that my goal is to, with every experience that I have, help someone else avoid it or be prepared for it. Because if people come out of Leverage Your Art or even taking the free mini course and they feel like I'm competent, I'm going to be able to handle whatever comes my way, and I'm going to be a stronger business person because of it. The hard stuff is what makes you the good business person. If you're not experiencing it, then you're probably like not pushing it hard enough in some ways. Does that, you know what I'm saying? So like,
absolutely.
yeah. So slow
Yeah.
growth, guys, there's a reason it matters. That's all.
Yeah. And you know, your sincerity. And the thing is, I know you've been there. Like that for me was one of the reasons I really wanted to learn from you, because I know you've been where I've been and you understand the frustration or maybe the uncertainty. And, you know, it's something that resurges, you know, it doesn't matter. Like I was on NPR in 2004 when I was first doing graphic design, and I was on All Things Considered, and they like called me and asked me, and I was like, oh my God. And then what happens? First of all, I didn't get, not that I needed any, but I mean, it's not like I got a job from that. And secondly, after that happened, I was like, now what? You know, like, what am I going to do? And it was amazing. But it's like, instead of going from like, you know, big, you know, surge in success to big surge in success, I like the idea of slow, steady growth, because that's where you can kind of get your, you know, hands around it and really get comfortable with it. And also, if you want to shift gears a little bit, you can do it more easily if you're not, in the middle of this like roller coaster, which
Oh
is
my
kind
God.
of good.
No, it's so true. First of all, I want to remind everyone we have this double, I don't want to call it a problem, but it's two things to consider. We're both artists and trying to be business people. And it doesn't matter that we're art businesses. We are still becoming businesses. And there's a lot of people who start businesses all over the world. And it's, no one's going to say it's the easiest thing I ever did. But a lot of people love what it gives them in return whenever you build the business that works for you. But it really isn't about like one big thing catapulting you to the next thing. It is consistency, and it is figuring out what you actually love, letting go of the things along the way that you don't love anymore, letting yourself grow and change, which that's something that I've had to do. I've lived a lot of lives, guys, a lot of different lives. And I don't say that with shame. I say that with maybe I've let myself grow and change. And I think that's the big thing. And I think we often are so hard on ourselves. Like, I have to have this figured out from day one, and I have to be unique and special from day one. And I have to create wisdom when I haven't had any experience yet. The experience is what gives you the wisdom and the ability to listen to like what you actually like. How many of you have tried something because you saw someone you followed do it online and you're like, this is working, and so I'm going to do it too? And how many of you have been like meow afterwards? It's because we got to find what works for each of us. So yeah, it's and also I'll say this. I mentioned the team I have. There's not a thing that anyone does on my team that I didn't do first. I went from like, for 3 years I worked a full-time job before Gingerbread created even the tiniest modicum of consistent income to where I felt like I could try to make it something. I used to do all the wholesale myself. Now I have someone who helps me with that. I did all the shipping myself. Someone helps me with that. A lot of people do. I assembled everything. My inbox is so messy, guys, when it's just left to me, and I still sent those pitch emails, and I still was talking to art directors, and now I have someone who helps me make sure my inbox is a little tidier. And I have people who just at some point, like, I can train them to do things the way I would do, and then let them do it even better than I ever could imagine. So that's also a beautiful thing if you choose to go that route. Most of my students, they don't want a team, but they are curious about it. So I'll tell you about it, but I'm not saying go hire someone today. That's all.
Well, I didn't think I wanted help when I first started out either, because I'm kind of a control freak. And like, I could hire someone to clean my house, and I don't even want to do that because I'm like, they're not going to do a good enough job. So, but I will tell you that where I am now, right now, I would love to be able to hire somebody to do my marketing, because, and I would love to have somebody do my pitching, but I like to have my hands around that. But I would love to hire somebody to do a lot of the, tedious marketing things like reposting something, and things like that. And I never thought I would, but that's how much I've grown. And that's a good thing. So, at some point I think I might consider doing that. So never say never.
Well, here's the thing, and this kind of ties into the artist side hustle mini course, because time. I think everyone can admit that not having time is one of the biggest blocks that all of us have, because we just feel like we don't have enough time to even try to pursue something, even if we wanted to, even if we felt like we were talented intuitively, which is rare. Usually people have to practice to get better at things, I'm not going to lie. But let's just say you were born on this earth and you could draw perfectly, but you just didn't have time. That time matters. And I think that in the artist side hustle, something I try really hard to get people to understand is like, if you have 5 hours, let's use it. If you don't have 5 hours, how do we create 5 hours? And sometimes creating 5 hours does look like bringing someone in to help you with cleaning your house. Or if you have kids, which I had 3 and they're upstairs right now trying to be real quiet for me while I do this call. It meant getting someone who could like trade me product for watching my kids 1 day a week sometimes so that I could have some alone time. Like, I bartered the heck out of things whenever I needed to, because if we have time, we can do something with it. But if we don't start there, like you may feel like defeated. So creating time for yourself to begin on your business, your art dreams, like that matters. You start with 5 hours and you go from there.
Yeah. That's awesome. Before I forget, I wanted to share, and I sent these to you ahead of time,
The
but I
questions,
did
yeah.
have a couple of questions because I wanted the graphics gang, hello guys, to have a chance to ask you questions directly.
Yeah.
And so these are the questions that I got. And I will tell you that a lot of people in the graphics gang have taken immersion. They just took it this year with Bonnie.
Yeah.
So here are the questions. So question number one was, I've taken immersion. How is leverage your art different? Is it a good next step after immersion?
Well, I'm going to be a little biased, but let me put two things out there. Number one, Bonnie is a great friend of mine. And it would be really weird of me to create a course that is exactly the same as immersion and put
Right.
it out there in the world with with me being like, hey Bonnie, like we're really good friends. We talk a lot. So I think that whenever you have one prominent online educator in one field, like Bonnie, like it can feel like, well, what else is there? And I'm not there to replace Bonnie. I have a completely different experience with my business than Bonnie's had, and that's what I teach. So Bonnie really focuses on the surface pattern design using Adobe Illustrator to create like gorgeous artwork. Like she's excellent at that. She teaches Adobe Illustrator so well, and
Oh yeah.
she teaches a bit more on business. I'm one of the people in her course who teaches about business. If you saw in a bonus there, I had a special little mini module I created brand new this year to talk about getting your art onto products. My experience is very different than Bonnie's. So I kind of I think of us now as the ultimate art business course. I'm a business course, which I know sounds a little like boring because we want to make art. But the truth is that my 14 years of experience actually running and scaling an art licensing business where I've had six figures multiple years in a row, which I know makes me kind of a weird unicorn, but it's true. It has been real. And I'm not trying to normalize that that's the number you're going to get, but I've just been really lucky. And I think I know a few things about how to take the art and then get the licensing deals because I've done it myself without an agent for my whole career. And then I've taken that same art and put it on my own products and sold it and then wholesale. And I just learned how to pivot. So what I'm there to do is if you took Bonnie's course, amazing. She's a cheerleader of Leverage Your Art too. She'd tell you that. It's a great next step. I do not have any overlap in terms of content with what she teaches. And that's not just on purpose. It's because I'm a different person and I have different things I major on. But we do talk about portfolios. I teach 5 different ways to create and pitch a portfolio, 5 different ways. I'm real big into the getting you to do action to get out in the world. Like that's probably my biggest thing is how is it that if you can come through my course by the end of it, you've actually taken steps forward with your business. And that's going to look different for every single person. I think my course is a great course after Bonnie's. If she were here, she'd probably say the same. And I've been really thankful to get to do it. This is my 4th year doing this course. So it's a great buddy. It's a great little buddy course.
Yes, that's
little.
exactly what
little.
I was thinking. Yeah, they're both huge. They're both enormous courses. They're both like 2 separate degrees. It's like, getting a double major in something. Okay, question number 2, and it's kind of, and really it's questions 2 and 3, but they're kind of connected. So question 2, and I have a feeling I know what the answer is going to be because it's probably going to be, I teach about this in my class, but I have any tips on building relationships with art directors? I'm pretty good at building one-on-one relationships when I meet people IRL, but cold emailing feels, so cold.
Why's it gotta be so cold? Well, I teach a lot of different ways to do this inside of Leverage, but the truth is it never involves feeling comfortable. It almost always involves getting out of your comfort zone. I mean, that's a real general way to put it, but like, how do you practically do it? It depends on what's happening in the world at the time. When I was doing trade shows for my business, which I've done a lot of trade shows, I would like create mailers and I would mail every company I could find and let them know like I'd be at this booth. And it was just old school, like putting stuff in the mail, emailing, being like, come find me at booth 1197, where I can show you my portfolio. And people would actually come. Now, can everyone go to a trade show and have a booth there? Absolutely not. I get that. But you can actually go to trade shows without having a booth and make appointments with art directors. In fact, a colleague of mine was at Atlanta Market a few weeks ago, and she made appointments with 5 different art directors and walked away with a new like deal. And she was just like, there's cheap flights to Atlanta this week. I'm going to go do this. And she did it with very little notice. If you're that type of person who isn't afraid to put your feet on the ground, I mean, there are some ways to really get it happening faster than you would think. Now, have I been to a trade show in a couple of years? No, I have not, because it's harder to make that happen right now. So I'm a big believer in building a real personal connection by first you do the email and then you pitch again and you follow up again and you follow up and you follow up. Like, I'm serious. That is the key to any person who you see like get art licensing success. Like, I had when I first started, I'm not going to lie, my first pitch, I got a deal right away. And I was like, oh, this is so fun. It's so easy. You just do an email and you get money. But the truth is, after I kind of shook that off and realized, like, no, it's a numbers game. You have to pitch and pitch and pitch and follow up and not be discouraged when you don't get a response right away. There's someone I pitched to for 2.5 years before I got a yes. And that product came out this year with Creative Co-op. What I also do is if I do get an inkling that someone says yes, I get their name and address and I put a little care package in the mail. Yes, I do. I think most of us can make like a postcard if we need to at a place like Smart Press or U Printing, but you could also probably make some small runs of products, little bitty things, and mail them out because you want to wow people with your art. You want their first impression to be like a handshake where they're like, oh, I don't want this handshake to end.
I love that.
I love it too because I think that so often we think that there's only one way to do this, but the truth is you work with what you got. If you can't go to a trade show and all you can do is email, you make the most out of that email. You also can follow them online and not in a creepy way and get to know them. There's a lot of people who used to be art directors who I licensed with who are now friends because it's just time. You have to take the time, and you also have to show that you're making new work and share that frequently. And what else is there? Knowing who to pitch to for your particular style is very important.
Oh,
I think,
yes.
everyone's always like, look at Target. I want to be a Target. Target's great, but Target has that one vibe and it's really hard to license with them. It's not the pony that people think it is. It's not the prize pony. There are manufacturers that people have never heard the names of. You walk through TJ Maxx or TJX and you look at the bottom, you're like, I've never heard of that brand. They have artists who they're paying to make art for them, whether it's flat fee, contracted, or like licensing with a royalty. It exists. So I think it's a lot of being curious, like Veronica Mars. You kind of pull out your magnifying glass and you investigate. I love that show. But also, I could be a stalker. I'm not going to lie. I love figuring out who does what.
Yeah.
And every time I pitch something out into the world, I just don't expect an immediate answer, and that's okay.
Yeah. And it's, I give myself, like when I do it, I give myself permission to be annoyed for like a minute or two. I'll be like, oh, that's so stupid. You know, and then sometimes I'll go take a walk and get off my computer and not sit there and stew in it. And sometimes when I've done that, I get back and they've answered and they're interested. So, you know, sometimes it's like, I'm the one who's kind of causing this, you know, the stress that, you know, I'm trying to look at it, and I've always tried to look at it as a puzzle. How can I find this person's who, you know, let me look at their stuff. Am I the right fit? Oh, and I slowly watch pieces slide into place. But, you know, you really have to like, and if you try to look at it as like a fun puzzle instead of like a chore, it's a little bit easier. And that's kind of what I've found keeps me going. And I think, you know, when I write an email, I know nobody can tell your tone because they're all going to have this, you know, similar wording. But I swear when I write them, when I'm in a good mood and I'm like feeling like this is a puzzle and I'm so excited and how could this person not want to license my art? Those are the emails that I get positive responses to. Yeah. So it's like, I'm putting it out there.
And I got to tell you one other thing, because the reality is, and you know this, the majority are no's or nothings. That's the majority of the responses. I got rejected last week by something I had pitched to, and I was really excited. I thought it was a sure thing. I was like, this is it. I was made for this. And I got a no. And I'm going to tell you, I know what I'm doing as a licensed artist, and I get no's because it does not matter how long you've been doing it. You are not in control of what happens on the other side, what they're looking for, the new trends that are coming up. All I can do is keep putting myself out there. And it stings still. Last week, I had my little pity party for a little bit, and then I got back out there and I pitched again. Because that's a big thing for me too, is like we can only control our energy and what we put out into the world. And I've been victim of my own foibles for a while, like I know my tendency is if I don't redirect my energy into a new pitch or a new something, I will sit and stew and I will rob myself of some joy that day. And I've had enough of that. So I try real hard I can only control so many things. So I'm going to put my energy out there with a new pitch or a new project, or I have this really great portfolio and they said no to it. What else can I do with it? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the feeling. And it's okay. It's like it happens to everyone. And that's one of the reasons I'm excited about Leverage too this year, because things are constantly changing. I know even from last year, I'm getting like vibes that things are changing. And I don't mean like trends, like, llamas were in last year and this year it's mushrooms. I mean, literally like the way business relationships are structured.
Yeah.
And, I'm so excited you have Jason Aquilino coming. By the way, he's my lawyer too.
Oh my gosh, he's great.
He's in Georgia like me. He's awesome.
Jason's great. He's made a licensing contract for everyone in the course this year, a flat fee licensing contract template that he's created for all of our students.
Yeah, that alone is so worth it, because I've been working with Jason and he is so knowledgeable about contracts. And I mean, where are you going to find a lawyer that understands not only art business, but our art business? I mean, that's really rare.
Yeah. So something I do is, I mean, you kind of already said it. Jason's coming in. I bring in guest experts to come do live calls where you can ask questions in real time. Because look, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. It would be very conceited of me to be like, I know everything. But what I don't know, I try to bring in other industry experts for a one-time live Q&A for each topic where you guys, the students, get to pick their brains a bit. It's really hard to have opportunities to, in real time, ask people these questions that are just we're scratching our heads about. And so Jason is a intellectual property attorney who will be coming in and doing a Q&A, and he's delightful. We actually moved him up this year to be week 2 because he's so fun. We used to have him like towards week 8, but now we're like, Jason, we love you. You're week 2. Bonnie Christine is doing a live Q&A about signature style, because that's like something she's real good at.
That's going to be juicy. I know that one's going to be good.
It's going to be juicy, so you'll recognize her. Jennifer Nelson, who's an art agent, is coming in to do a Q&A. She's fantastic. We also have Charlie Clements, who a lot of you know online because she's a social media sweetheart. I've never met her in real life. I've always wanted a chance to really pick her brain, so I'll be doing it with you in real time. And we have it'd be silly for me not to use my team to help talk about this, because I do run a pretty cool product-based business. So my head of operations with product is going to be coming in to do a Q&A to help you understand, like, how can we even start with product? Usually it's small batch. Usually you can't go manufacture a bunch of stuff. You might be wanting to get like 12 tea towels printed. How do we do that? And how do we make it profitable? So she's coming in. And then a good friend of mine named Kim Burks, who runs a very successful wholesale company. She's running a wholesale for beginners session for everybody. Now, look, if there's stuff in here where you're like, this is not ready for me, if you only take the first 3 modules of Leverage Your Art, like, you got work to do for days. There's so much to do, but it's the kind of course where you can come back to it again and again. And as you need it, find information you need.
I've done that because I didn't think I was going to be looking at possibly, producing and selling products. And I'm still not there yet, but I know that I can always go back. And also I want to do it this year and learn what's new. But I didn't think I was going to want to do that. And I'm definitely thinking about it. And now I know I have that option. But even from what I took of Leverage, which was, I didn't even open some of the files that we got. I'm like, I still gotten my money's worth for sure. So I'm going to share the last question, which is really just a tack on to the one I asked you. This is our final question from the same person. It was, speaking of art directors, any tips on actually finding them? I feel like a private detective. I know that feeling. Trying to track down names and emails, phone numbers of art directors at companies I've identified and like to pitch to, and I'm not very good at it. And my response, of course, to that initially is, none of us are very good at that, because that information is hidden for a reason.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just get real here. And this is not to be demeaning of anyone, because I have been exactly where you're at. 2 things happen. 1, people move jobs frequently. Like, I can't tell you, there's some clients I've had long term where my contact changes all the time because people leave positions. So if someone is like giving you a database of contacts for licensing, which is great, and we have a small database available inside Leverage Your Art for people to kind of jump off of, the contact information changes so quickly. And that is not anyone's fault. And you'd find that anywhere. My stepfather-in-law, he used to do pitching to athletic directors for this whole niche thing. Same thing happened with him. He was like, new person's working here. I got to find this new person. Like, it happens in every industry, even like high school sports. So it changes. And secondly, once you do have a relationship with an agent, or not an agent, a contact, like an art director at a company, sometimes they will explicitly tell you, like, I'd prefer you not share this information yet because I get bombarded with submissions that are not right for me. So that's like a problem we try to solve, and Leverage is how to teach you to know what's right for you so that when you are pitching, it's to the right people. It's important. Some art directors really either want to do it themselves. Like, people are looking all the time at your Instagrams. They're paying attention to how you interact in the world. People will find you online sometimes. Sometimes they just want to do the searching themselves. But other times, if something is in their inbox, they want it to be the right thing. And so it's out of respect. It's not so much gatekeeping as it is out of respect for those relationships sometimes, that people are not willing to be like, hey, person I just met on the internet, here's my contact for this place. Although sometimes I tell people, it just depends on the vibe, right? The vibe matters.
Yeah. And the thing is that a lot of that information is hard to find. I've found that it's just, people don't want that information out there because they do get bombarded, but that doesn't mean that, you can't find it. And I have also gotten in touch with art directors by literally emailing customer service at,
Oh, guys. And I talk a ton about that in the course, but like, sometimes I think we overcomplicate things. We think it must be really hard. If I could give you one piece of advice, even if you don't take the free mini course or anything, the simplest solution is probably really it. If you're thinking, I'm interested in working with this company, how do I get in touch with them? Go click the contact us button or pick up the phone. Hardly anyone picks up the phone anymore. It still works. So, I think we often think processes are way harder than they are. I will tell you this, the process may not be as hard as you think if you actually get in there and start doing it. Does that mean it makes it easy to get the deal? That's a whole other story. But I think we can simplify things on ourselves. We want the perfect systems and the perfect databases and everything. But like, all I ever did was have a spreadsheet and a notes app on my phone and just pay attention. I pay attention on Instagram to who's announcing partnerships and who's liking their posts. And it is a little stalkery. And I get on LinkedIn every once in a while. And I just think it's more fun that way. That's all.
Yeah. And I get inspired too. So I think that's great. So that is actually it for the questions from my group. And I don't know how much more I could possibly gush about Leverage, but I'm super excited. And I know this year that it's just going to be amazing. I'm very excited about it. And there's going to be all kinds of new content. And if you've never taken Leverage before, you're going to be blown away. I was like, whoa, like the first week I was like, this is way more than I bargained for in a good way.
So we got to wrap up because I actually have to go somewhere in a minute.
Yeah.
But let me just say this. I know how overwhelming it can be because I take courses too that have helped me a lot. It can be super overwhelming with all the content. So what my team did, literally the day Leverage Your Art ended last year, my team came together and was like, all right, we got notes from students, we got pain points, we know where people are struggling, and we reworked and reorganized and streamlined the whole freaking course and re-recorded it. Workbooks that will help you go from start to finish in each module, and eliminating things that may have been relevant at one point, but they're not really relevant to today's market because we are changing all the time. And there's just all these little surprises that we have in store for people. I never, and it's hard to brag on yourself because you know how we are, we're artists, but I can tell you, I don't think I've ever been prouder than what we're putting out into the world this year. And I say that with sincerity. And if someone gets in the course, they don't like it, they can get a refund. That happens too, but it's really rare that happens, honestly, because I'm so thankful and proud of the opportunity that I get to do this. And we just were like, how do we show up to this community this year in a way that we've never done before and just have them leaving feeling I can do this. and have something to show for it. So that's what's happening this year. And I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Carrie.
Yay! Well, thank you so much, Stacie, for joining me. I know how busy you are. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited. And I cannot wait to see you in the artist side hustle and leverage your art.
Me too. All right.
Yay!
And Carrie's got links, so she'll give them all to you.
I will. Thanks again, Stacie. Take care. See you soon.
Bye. Bye.
Hi, guys. I hope you enjoyed my chat with Stacie. I loved talking with her, and I'm so excited. So don't forget to sign up for the free mini course, The Artist's Side Hustle. You can sign up through the link in the description below. And I cannot wait to also have you join me for Leverage Your Art this year. Just stay tuned. If you sign up for The Artist's Side Hustle through me, you will not miss out when Leverage Your Art starts. I cannot wait to see you there. Thanks again. Bye.